I mean, the little one, look at this. He's at 166 food, and Dimaga's at 110 food. And the only thing that the little one has done is just some harassment. The fact that he's able to abuse all these different tech patterns. And then I am going to speed this game up just a pinch here. This Expo is up. No transfer being performed yet, but, you know, these Thors do so much damage. I just want to point this out. Look at this. That is 36 damage. That ends up, see if I can do some fast multiplication, 72 damage. So 2 shots pretty much bring a Roach down to almost no health. So, I mean, the Hellions, the fact that they're there, just clean that up a lot more easily. So, I mean, obviously very nice unit composition. And we're just going to speed through the remainder of the game because I think it's pretty clear that the little one has, you know, come out victorious of this one. A little disappointed that we aren't getting to see quite so many Marines early on, but I want you to note how stable the little one was up to this point. The fact that he's doing so much harassment forces Dimaga to reveal a lot of his units. Mutalisks can't really be hidden at this point in time. A lot of Roaches can't really be hidden at this point in time. So, the little one is free to just make whatever units best suit the needs at that point in time, and easy peasy. He's just going to do some cleanup. We're going to speed things up even more. Here comes some more tank drops again, and then look at how not close this battle ends up being. I mean, with all these tanks in the back, it's just too hard for these to really do any damage. There are some neural parasites that go off, and of course you think, oh, it's looking really close, but then look, one-shotting the infestors. And we see that the little one is hanging out comfortably at 134 food, while Dimaga is at about half that. Again, the point defense drones, brilliant at dealing with Hydralisks. Hydra Roach, the popular composition in this matchup, but ever since Roach has received that huge, gigantic nerf, we've seen a lot less of Roach play in this matchup, and really I think that that's the reason this next play is so strong. A turtling Zerg, who's just playing defensively and comfortably dealing with all this harassment, would just build up a giant Roach army, and when this came out, sure, you can have all the Marauders and tanks and Thors that you want. I have 90 Roaches, so not much that you can do as Terran. Look, very easy pushing action. Despite this being a somewhat small force, the fact that there is this Thor leading in the front to absorb hits, along with these Hellions to deal a little damage, the tanks in the back are just easily going to be able to clean everything up. But the thing that's so important to note is not that the little one ended up with a whole bunch of tanks and Hellions and Thors. It's that opening that is so insanely hard to deal with. So now I have to hop back into BattleNet because there was a patch that fixed Mac users BattleNet, but of course I am not a Mac user, so just basically means that I have to reboot to go into each replay. But again, we absolutely have to watch these 2 kick-ass games by the little one. So here I am logging on to the Europe server. The email address you saw me type in, I literally have never checked, so if you want to email that, be my guest. I totally will never read it. I just needed an account on Europe. So here we are going to be watching the second game here on Metalopolis. Yes, I would be delighted to swap out to the most recent version of the patch, which literally only changed Mac users, so... Now, this game on Metalopolis is a little bit better of an illustration of how unbelievably annoying this style is to play against. We saw essentially passivity by the little one in that game, but I want to emphasize how there are so many aggressive possibilities with this opening that the little one does. So for instance, if you early expand, as we're going to see in this game, the little one will rush you with Marines and Hellions. So here is the little one right here. He is spawning as the blue Terran. We have Dimaga spawning as the red Zerg, or the green Zerg here at the bottom. Sorry, I'm just red-green colorblind. Everything seems green to me. So pretty much standard stuff. And you know, everyone in Europe is friendly. Dimaga having a triple happy face because he's just delighted to have been smashed by this brilliance that the little one's displaying. So fortunately, we are not going to see this one base play. Just coincidentally worked out nicely the fact that Dimaga did all sorts of different possibilities that we can admire. Little one doing all the normal, usual stuff, getting the barracks down. We're going to be seeing a factory there. Now, so I'm just going to say some possibilities right now. You heard me allude to Marine Hellion pushes that are going to be coming out at the start. However, I also want to say that if you open Mutalisk, which is the way that I was opening against him, he will make more Marines and Thors, a handful of Hellions, and then he will push once he hits 2 to 3 Thors. And because he has a decent number of Marines, again, Marines I think are the important part of the play, it is impossible, well, not impossible, but it's very, very, very hard to deal with. Terran ends up in a phenomenal position. Clever positioning by these Marines. Notice that he hasn't walled his ramp in yet. So he puts it here, which means that Zerglings would have to take this very long attack path around. Just little things to point out. We are doing a little bit more emphasis on overarching strategy, but of course we can appreciate the little things. So more Marines being made. Again, a lot of Marines being made. If for some reason Little One was planning on going for some sort of reactor Hellion play. But we know that he's not. He's actually just going for a, you know, completely broken, imbalanced play that I just am stumped on. And you'll hear me discuss my thoughts at the end of this cast, just because I think it's important to just throw some ideas out to combat this. But this is just so friggin' strong. And you know what is the one thing that I think is most brutal about this build is the fact that this looks relatively easy to execute. We're going to see a huge amount of skill that's demanded for one part coming up in just a little bit, but for the most part, you're sitting at the top of your ramp, you're walling off with all your unit-producing structures. You already know you don't really need to hide anything or play tricky. You can just happily sit there, reveal everything, expand when it's safe, and when is it safe to expand, at the most intuitive time possible. I mean, that was a big skill issue in the original Brood War, where, you know, when can I throw up my expansion? Well, you need to have about this many Marines. You kind of have to feel it out based upon what your SCV's seen. In this game, or excuse me, with this strategy, you're basically saying, he has air. I need to move out when I have a Thor. I have a Thor. It's now safe to expand. I mean, it's just completely straightforward. The unit that you need to kill his scary unit, just wait for it to finish and then you're set. All this is happening on the top of your ramp, and as long as you have this sort of ridiculously tight, solid wall off, you're going to be great. So, you know, you'll probably hear me say a lot, you know, just stick to macro, don't try to do anything too technical. This is not technical. We're going to see a very technical part come up, so I suppose I'm speaking a little too soon. But this, I think that any Terran player could execute. So hopefully I'll begin sparring against a lot of people who are doing this online. So that way I can try to test some of my solutions to it. And here comes the fast starport again. So unusual to be getting all these tech structures and yet not getting this Vespene geyser yet. However, this ends up working out great because we get everything very quickly and we can still put pressure on. Very clever not to get that second geyser so quickly. So here comes the most annoying push in the universe. What's Damaga doing? The most normal thing in the world. Getting a slightly later second queen, and now he's going to begin, you know, just making a whole bunch of larvae out of each of these. Is he getting Zergling speed yet? Yes, indeed. And here comes this very fast push. Now, a lot of people would look at this and say, well, why doesn't Damaga just make more Zerglings if he sees this coming? We're going to see this do a ton of damage, but I just want to let you know that even though it seems like Damaga could have gotten a lot of stuff up, I also want to point out that Damaga, you know, really hasn't had that big swing forward in his drone count yet. I want to point out that this really comes so fast. It's mind-blowing how fast this actually feels, because so often players are used to, you know, one Hellion having to come out after it's been lifted and swapped with a barracks, but now all of a sudden we have a bunch of Marines, which can kill queens quite quickly, and also just do a whole bunch of support fire. Now this is the technical part, this amount of very, very difficult control. So here comes the little one, a little bit of over micro. By the way, if your Marines are getting surrounded, don't try to freak out and be like, okay, let me try to back up and shoot. Just sit there and keep firing and maximize the damage of these units that are obviously going to die. But look at the little one, he is still rallying. Why is he rallying? He sees the opening, he senses, wow, I can just get Hellions and push and be effective here. Again, completely straightforward what the solution is at this point. And meanwhile, he's getting a Banshee, and I hate this because he did this to me and it made me want to cry. Look at how this harassment comes so fast. And it is so strong because none of these unit-producing structures have wasted any time making reactors or tech labs or any of that sort. So this Banshee, though it's a little bit later than it would normally be, you know, if you built a tech lab at one of these buildings, it feels so much faster because this harass is really all you're thinking of. And Damaga really needs to begin making extra queens if he wants to deal with this Banshee. But I mean, look at this phenomenal control by the little one. These tilts that he's doing with these Hellions to try to line up the Zerglings. Super strong. And he's just going to pull back. He's not going to force the issue. He's just fine retreating. And here comes the command center. No second gas yet. Basically, I'm going to get one of each unit producing structure, focus on Marines and Hellions early on, and then, you know, if I have the opportunity to get Banshees and do some damage, I will. Otherwise, I will just make a Viking. Or if, there's like a high ground, I'll just get a medevac. So, doing a little bit of scouting by Demaga. And now look at what the effect of that harass was. Look at how many Zerglings there are. I mean, the little one really couldn't have pulled back at a better time. That is just perfect. And are Hellions and Marines still being made? Yes, indeed. Because I see a lot of Zerglings, I will need a lot of Hellions. Completely straightforward counter. We see the armory coming up. Oh no, if there's any air, I need to have some sort of Mondo Giganto badass to deal with it. And of course, everyone's favorite Mondo Giganto badass is indeed the Thor. We do see the Spire being made. Very clever by Demaga. Most good Zerg players will be doing this. Whenever they want to build a tech structure that's layer level, they just hide it on some creep with an Overlord. By the way, I do want to just say this for anyone who didn't know. If you move this Overlord and the creep retracts, any building that doesn't have creep touching it, or is not on creep, slowly dies until it's gone. Because I actually played a game where I